You are listening to the Fly the W670 podcast, season 2, episode 52. Cubs miserable at the midway point. Don't forget to listen, download, review. Most importantly, subscribe to the podcast. Follow on all the socials, Fly the W670 on Twitter, Instagram. Of course, we're on Facebook, and you can email us at flythew670@gmail.com. Well, Crawly, it has been a tough stretch for our Cubs.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like anything comes easy anymore, and it's just been a rough go of it. Going out to San Francisco, we knew that night game going into having to leave the next day. That night when they played on Sunday Night Baseball, it was just a mess. So, lost 3 out of 4, not great. Try to do something against Milwaukee.
Tried to do something against Milwaukee, and as we get set to tape this podcast, the Cubs are 11 games back of the Brewers. It is just not going well at all. But let's recap this one. We're going to start game 1, rewinding a little bit. Justin Steele back on the mound.
Yeah, and on the list of awful games, this one's pretty high on the list, which says something. Everything that has been hurting the Cubs all season was all kind of rolled up in this one game. Good starting pitching, base running blunders, defensive miscues, and one of the worst bullpens just in I think in recent memory. I can't think of a bullpen as bad as this one in the last 10, 15, let's say 10 years safely, right? Top of the first with 2 outs and Christopher Morel at the plate. Seiya gets caught leaning and is thrown out at second to end the inning. Nice base running blunder there. Top of the second, the Cubs had runners at first and second, only 1 out. Michael Busch and Thomas Nido strike out to end the threat. Top of the fourth, Cubs load the bases, nobody out. Dansby Swanson flies out for the first out. Michael Busch hits a weak grounder to shortstop Nick Ahmed. Everyone is safe. Morel scores. The Cubs are up 1-0. But then Nido struck out and PCA grounded out. So you had the bases loaded, no outs, and you can only get 1 run on a weak hit infield ball. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know what you mean, buddy.
Top of the fifth, the Cubs have 2 on, no outs. Cody Bellinger hits an RBI single to put the Cubs up 2-0. Then a wild pitch put the runners at second and third. Morel would walk, so now they have the bases loaded. Again, no outs. Ian Happ grounds into a force out. Morel out at second, but Ian Happ beats a double play. Another run crosses the plate. Cubs are up 3-0. Dansby scored Bellinger to make it 4-0, and so he doubled the score. Bellinger to make it 4-0. So runners are still second and third with 1 out, but Michael Busch and Thomas Nido struck out. Another opportunity to add on. One more missed opportunity for the Cubs in the top of the 6th. PCA would lead off with a triple. Nico would, he is so much fun to watch when that helmet comes flying off.
Oh my gosh, he flies around the bases. Absolutely flies.
Yeah, Nico would hit a single on a ground ball to third baseman Matt Chapman, who made a nice play to prevent PCA from scoring. So now you got runners at the corners, no out. Seiya pops out. Nico steals second, so runners at second and third went out. But Cody Bellinger and Christopher Morel would both strike out. Cubs could not take advantage of a leadoff triple, Dustin. Couldn't get the run in. The Cubs were 4 for 15 with runners in scoring position. They left 12 men on base, and all of those runners left on base would come back to haunt the Cubs. Justin Steele continues to search for his first win, and once again, he had a quality start, but nothing to show for it. Steele pitched 7.1 innings, gave up 2 runs on 2 solo homers, 6 hits total, 1 walk and 9 Ks. The 1 walk Steele had led off the bottom of the 8th, right? So he's in the bottom of the 8th. He gets that first out with a strikeout, or he gives up a walk, leadoff walk. He strikes out Austin Slater, so that's the first out. Then Heliot Ramos hits one to right field that Suzuki should have caught. It was on the warning track, but he jumped for no reason. The ball kind of jostled in and out of his glove. So instead of a runner on first with 2 outs, it's runners at second and third with only 1 out. And Justin Steele's night is done. And once again, Dustin, he's pissed. He lets it show.
Well, he's got to be pissed. Everybody should be pissed at this point.
Right. Luckily, Tyson Miller got the next 2 outs, and the Cubs still led 4-2 in the 9th inning. Right. So Steele still has a chance to get this victory here, the W. Here's what I don't get, though. To me, Tyson Miller has been one of the best options out of the bullpen. And I don't get why he doesn't have a chance to start the 9th inning. Instead, Counsell goes with Colton Brewer, who immediately gives up a leadoff double to Matt Chapman to start the 9th. Then Thairo Estrada bunts, everyone safe, runners at first and third. Michael Conforto with a sac fly. That's, get the runner in. Cubs leads now 4-3 with the runner at first and 1 out. So now the Giants put in pinch hitter Patrick Bailey, He's a switch hitter. Counsell calls on lefty Drew Smyly to come in. Bailey will hit a single to put runners at first and second. He walks Nick Ahmed to load the bases. That was just huge right there. Austin Slater would hit a sac fly to tie the game. So now it's a tie game. Maybe get this one to extra inning. Smyly would then intentionally walk Heliot Ramos to load the bases again. And then Smyly would walk Wilmer Flores to end the game. I mean, how do you
well, now you just got to laugh. Now you just have to laugh because otherwise you would cry. I mean, just another way to lose a ball game.
Now, Smyly was bad. There were some bad calls by the umpire, but it wouldn't have come down to, again, Drew Smyly or the umpire if the Cubs could do something with runners in scoring position. We've been harping on this all year, and it came back to bite them.
For like 2 years now, Crawly. It's been 2 years in running.
Yep. Here's what Craig Counsell had to say about that.
I mean, there's no question we left runs on the bases for sure, and that plays into it as well. We could have had 5, 6, 7 on the board by just moving the ball forward and didn't do it, and we got to do better at that. I mean, that was a game that we should have broken open, that cost us. I mean, that doesn't cost you every game. It certainly cost you tonight.
Cost you a lot more games than it doesn't. And it's consistent with this team. It's just nonstop with the runners in scoring position, the defensive blunders, the base running mistakes. It just looks like such a sloppy team.
Right. And that's something that I would not have expected with Craig Counsell as the skipper. It's the sloppiness. And in game number 2, Crawly, the base running is going to be an issue again, sticking out like a sore thumb. The bright spot, however, was Kyle Hendricks.
Yep. Kyle Hendricks continued his impressive stretch of starts that has been going on recently. He goes 7 innings and gives up 2 runs on 5 hits with 1 walk and 4 Ks. Dustin, could you imagine the way he started in April and May, lost his starting job, to see what Kyle's doing now? I mean, this is impressive. The only trouble he had was in the second when he gave up a single to Jorge Soler and walked Matt Chapman. Michael Conforto would single to make it 1-0. David Villar would hit a sac fly to make it 2-0. And honestly, that's all the runs the Giants would need are 2 runs. The Cubs didn't have any problems with runners in scoring position because the offense was pretty much non-existent.
Non-existent.
The Cubs 1 through 3 hitters were 3 for 9 with 3 walks. The Cubs 4 for 9 hitters, Steya, Happ, Morel, Swanson, PCA, and Miguel Amaya were a combined 1 for 20 with 1 walk and 8 strikeouts. Okay?
That's not good, right? That's bad.
Right. And so you're looking at this, even with all that bad offense, the Cubs are trailing 2-1, bottom of the 8th, and Colton Brewer comes in to replace Kyle Hendricks. And I don't know. I mean, it's one of those weird things why they like some of these guys that they do. I've never seen anything that made me go, we got to keep giving Colton Brewer a chance. This is a guy.
Right. They fall in love with guys for like a little bit. It's just so bizarre to me. They try to wear them out until they burn them, and then they go on to the next guy.
Yeah, I mean, I don't get what you think he brings to the table. He replaces Kyle Hendricks in the 8th inning. He proceeds to give up 3 runs on 3 hits with 1 walk. He did have 1 K, but that definitely put the game out of reach. Cubs lose this one 5-1. Now, Game 3, you see the battle of the Haydens. Hayden Wesniewski, Hayden Birdsong. Did you see that that note that there's only one Hayden, Hyden, starting pitcher ever in baseball, and then now you had 2 Hayden starting this one? So
yeah, that was pretty interesting. That was a pretty interesting statistic. Is that a statistic? Is that what's the word for that?
It's a game note.
It's a game note. Okay, it's not a statistic, I guess.
Nah. Hayden Wesniewski made a spot start, and Hayden Birdsong made his MLB debut. Cubs got on board in the second when PCA hit an RBI single, and the Cubs were up 1-0. But as it usually goes lately, the Cubs almost immediately give up any lead that they get. Hayden Wesniewski gave up a 2-run homer to Michael Conforto, and David Villar made it back-to-back jacks to take a 3-1 lead. Hayden Wesniewski pitched 4 innings, gave up 2 runs on 3 hits with 7 Ks and 1 walk. but 2 of the 3 hits he gave up were home runs. And we've talked about this, Dustin. It's just, I don't know what it is with him. He's given up 8 home runs in his last 15 and 2/3 innings pitched.
And that's a lot, Crawly. That's a lot, but it honestly, it feels like more than that. As many as 8 in 15 and a third is, it feels like 10 or 11.
Yeah, every time he's up, and a lot of them were in big situations where you just got the lead, 1-run lead, all that kind of stuff. So that's what makes it tricky. The Cubs scored again in the 4th. Christopher Morel, though, was thrown out trying to stretch a single into a double to lead off the inning. So there's those base running blunders. But with 2 outs, PCA walks, and Miguel Amaya singled, and Pete scores all the way from first base. I mean, he's one of the reasons that you do still watch this team play. He's really an exciting young player, and that was just an unbelievable time around the base paths from first to home. The Cubs tied it in the 5th with a solo home run by Seiya Suzuki, but once again, that lead would evaporate in the bottom half of the inning when Luis Matos homered to put the Giants up 4-3 off Drew Smiley. So he didn't walk everybody this time. He just gave up the solo home run. And so the Cubs would not score again. Christopher Morel was picked off first base in the 6th inning. In the 8th, Cody Bellinger singled, but Seiya Suzuki hit into a double play. But then Ian Happ doubled and Christopher Morel walked. So you got 2 outs. You got runners at first and second. So you got the tying run at second base, and they decided to do a double steal, even though Happ was already in at second in scoring position. So he is thrown out. And Craig Counsell was asked about that decision at the end of the game.
Well, it's a risk, and we're trying to get 2 guys in scoring position, and it just didn't work. But base stealing is risk. We took a risk. It didn't work.
That's not an explanation. I'm sorry. That is not an explanation to why you do that. You've got a runner in scoring position, supposedly one of your better batters, even though basically right now everybody stinks, except for maybe Ian Happ and Cody Bellinger. Everybody stinks right now. That was just dumb. And they completely read Craig Counsell's, intentions, and it wasn't even close.
No. And again, a follow-up question, Dustin, why would you need to make that risk if you have the tying run in scoring position? Okay, let's just get the tying run in. Let's focus on that. But even though the Cubs out-hit the Giants 9-6, 1 for 7 with runners in scoring position, left 7 men on base. We talked about the base running errors. So again, you basically shot yourself in the foot.
Once again.
Yep. And so that takes us then into today. And Shota Imanaga, I think a lot of people were pretty interested in this one, Dustin, just because of how bad it went last time against the Mets. So how is Shota going to bounce back? Because remember last start, it was a Friday, he gave up 10 runs against the Mets.
Yeah, a week ago tomorrow, right?
Yeah. Absolutely ambushed him, Dustin. But, I thought that Seiya pitched pretty well today. I mean, he ran into a little bit of trouble in the 6th inning, but in general, I thought he did pretty well. The Cubs would strike first in the 3rd inning. When you were looking at that one right there, PCA hit by a pitch, so take advantage of that one. He steals second. Thomas Nido strikes out swinging, but Pete Crow Armstrong steals third base. So this is what this guy does right now, right? He steals second, steals third, and then Nico Horner, of all people, hometown kid, hits a home run, his 3rd of the year. I did not expect that one. So the Cubs are up 2-0. You are feeling pretty good. Michael Busch strikes out. Cody Bellinger singles. And then Seiya Suzuki hits a triple. And that gives the Cubs a 3-0 lead. But earlier in the game, Dustin, the one thing that kind of frustrated me when I was looking at it is that Ian Happ got thrown out. It was a bizarre play. It was a bloop single, and he tried to score from home, thought he was PCA or something. That he was thrown out at home plate, Dustin, for the final out. The Cubs are leading MLB with 15 men thrown out at home plate. 15. And that's another one.
It's way too many. And then when you pull in the statistic about how many 1-run games they've been involved in and how many 1-run games they've lost, that all adds up to being, 11 games out of first place.
Right. And then you get to the 6th inning and Seiya kind of starts to run out of gas. He gives up a single to start the inning, gets a pop out of flyouts. He's got 2 out, but then Matt Chapman singles. And then the Cubs did get a little bit of a break for a second. Jorge Soler hits a ground rule double, only scores 1 run instead of 2. So he's still got 2 outs, 3-1, but it doesn't matter because wild pitch by Shota scores the run anyway. So I guess baseball karma, 3-2. And then Luis Matos singles on a soft ground ball, goes in between. It kind of seemed like there was miscommunication between Shota and Michael Busch. So that makes it 3-3. So again, just sloppy, Dustin, sloppy,
Well, that play, I'll tell you though, that weak ground ball, I don't think anybody could have gotten that. There was nothing. There was nothing there. I mean, I don't know whose play that could have been. Obviously, the first baseman couldn't have gotten it because then nobody would have been on the bag. You've got a speedy batter up. Nico Horner was playing almost in the out, in the fringe of the dirt and the grass. There's no way he's getting to that ball. And the way with the lefty pitcher coming off the mound, it was just the perfect ball in the perfect spot at the worst time possible.
It just seems like the Cubs' luck this season, or lack of. But you get to the 8th, Seiya Suzuki doubles. They strand him there. Dustin, you know what? I do want to tip we talk about the bullpen sometime. Tip of the cap to the bullpen today. Luke Little came in and did exactly what Luke Little can do. He pitched an inning, 3 strikeouts, Dustin. 3 strikeouts. He's got the stuff. He just doesn't need to nibble, be aggressive. Tyson Miller, he had a leadoff walk, not good, but he ended up getting a strikeout and getting out of the inning without giving up a run. I think that he's been one of the most dependable arms out of the pen. He's got a 2.15 ERA. Now, Dustin, I was thinking about you, 9th inning. Who do they call? Hector Neris. And guess what? Hector Neris had a 1-2-3 inning.
Right. It was time. If you listen to Tommy Hotovy today, it was time to go back to Hector Neris.
Yeah, but you take a look at that and you say to yourself, wow, boy, really, really needed that. So the Cubs get into extras, right? You get the courtesy runner, and we're in the 10th inning on this one.
The Manford man. The Manford man. Not the courtesy runner, the Manford man.
The Manford man. And so the Cubs have their Manford man on there. And so Cody Bellinger starts at second. Seiya grounds out. And these are the little things that drive me nuts. It didn't make a difference in this game, Dustin, but these are the reasons why the Cubs lose so many games. When you have that guy at second and you have nobody out, you have to advance that runner to third. Have to do it. Yep. Seiya grounds out for the first out, but then Ian Happ homers. That makes it 5-3. The Cubs do not. They got the lead there. Bottom of the 10th. How about this one? Finally, Craig changes it up a little bit. Porter Hodge comes in to close it out. The youngster.
But the blood pressure just finally came down, Crawly. The blood pressure just finally came down.
He gives up a single, right? That was kind of that one was a weird play by Dansby. They had Seiya Suzuki playing left field today. I don't know if there's some miscommunication, but I wouldn't really put that on Porter. Do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I mean, Seiya should have called off Dansby. I mean, really tough play for Dansby. It was a little bloop. It wasn't like he gave up hard contact or you know what I mean, or anything like that. But then he gets Austin Slater to strike out. Heliot Ramos flies out to Bellinger, and then he gets Wilmer Flores to pop out. So I think Porter Hodge did a phenomenal job. And right now, to me, just off the eye, Tyson Miller and Porter Hodge really kind of have the best stuff coming out of the pen. So again, you had to have taken that final game, Dustin. You had to.
Oh, but it was an absolute must. I mean, it's bad enough when you get swept in a 3-game series, and it's hard to get swept. If you're from a gambling standpoint, you always bet against the sweep. I mean, if the possibility was there to get swept in a 4-game series, I mean, that plane ride would have been silent from San Francisco to Milwaukee. Absolutely silent.
Well, Dustin, on Wednesday, the Cubs played their 81st game, we are at the midway point now, right? Today was the 82nd. They have almost an identical record as they did last season. After 81 games in 2023, the Cubs record was 38-43. They were 5 games behind the Brewers at that point. In 2024, the Cubs are 37-44. So there's 1 game difference between last year and this year, but they're 11 games behind the Brewers. Could the Cubs mount a comeback like they did last year when they went from 10 games under to 10 games over? Yeah, that exists. But the problem this year, I don't know what the fix is, right? The National League wild card has a whole bunch of teams competing for those 3 wild card spots. So not only do you have to catch Milwaukee, you have to pass all those other teams, and a lot of those other teams already have the tiebreaker over the Cubs. So the Giants are in the wild card. They have the tiebreaker over the Cubs. The Padres have the tiebreaker over the Cubs. The Braves and the Mets have tiebreakers over the Cubs. And if you take a look, Cincinnati has a 2-5 lead. St. Louis has a 4-1 lead. You take a look at Arizona. The Cubs have a better record against Arizona, 2-1, but there's 3 games left. And Pittsburgh, the Cubs are 3-4 against Pittsburgh, 6 left, and they still have to play Washington. I guess the point of it is, Dustin, is that you're taking a look right here, and there's going to be a lot. It's going to be a buyer's market, a seller's market. There's going to be a lot of people that are still thinking they're going to be in this. And so anyone you want to try to acquire is going to come with a high price tag. And Dustin, you mentioned this earlier. The Cubs have played in a major league leading 33 one-run games, the most in baseball. They also have 19 losses that were decided by 1 runs, also the most in baseball. Their 17 blown saves are second most in baseball.
Yeah, it's been a really, really rough first half of the season. Things can only get better. I guess the good news is there is still time. If you can play that bad in the beginning, who's to say the Brewers or somebody else like the Pirates or the Reds or the Cardinals or anybody else in the division could go on a run as bad as the Cubs have. You are listening to the Fly the W670 podcast. It's episode number 52 of season number 3. Cubs miserable at the midway point. Don't forget to listen, download, review, and subscribe to the Fly the W podcast. Leave one of those 5-star reviews. You can email us at flythew670@gmail.com. And don't forget, you can watch Crawly and I on the 670 The Score YouTube page. So, Crawly, you had an unbelievable 1984 Cubs reunion and Sandberg statue ceremony reveal. Help fill everybody in on what you went through.
Yeah, I was swimming in the nostalgia, so to speak. It was, we talked about it, Dustin. For you and I, both the 1984 team was really our induction, the thing that got us into Chicago Cubs baseball. And so on Saturday, I was at the game versus the Mets. They had the team come on the field. How about Rick Sutcliffe throwing a first pitch to Jody Davis? That brings back memories, doesn't it?
Yeah, that's really cool. Yep.
They got to sing the 7th inning stretch, and the Cubs actually won that game against the Mets. And so on Sunday, I was able to go to the statue unveiling ceremony. My friend Rich Biesterfeld, he's been on the podcast. He shoots a lot of photographs for in Arizona and of the Cubs affiliates. He hadn't been around, so we walked around for a while, and the Cubs just did a phenomenal job. I've been to every one of the ceremonies except for the Harry Carey in 98. So I've been to all the other statue ceremonies. And when we were at the statue ceremony, they had all sorts of nice little touches, but this one was different. Normally in the past, they've had all the seats facing the Gallagher Way building. This time, all the seats were facing Wrigley. And over the banner where it says Gallagher Way, this is kind of an Easter egg if you're an old school Cub fan, but they actually had a banner that said Sandberg, second to none. And for those people that remember, they had that on the left field fence for his jersey retirement ceremony. I asked the Cubs if that was the same one. They said no, but they did recreate it. And so that was really cool. And so, it's surrounded in this big blue curtain, the statue. They've never done that before. Everything was always done in a tarp. And so the Cubs were kind of teasing it out. You didn't know if it was hitting or defense or what it was going to be. And so when we looked at it, you couldn't tell. They were actually selling, though, pins that had a batting stance and a defensive stance. And everyone was kind of just guessing what it is. And so Tom Ricketts said a few words. And then a couple of Rhino's teammates said a few words. There was, Larry Boa, who was with that trade to get Ryne Sandberg. That, Ryan was always called the throw-in on that. And He gave a great speech. And so did Sean Dunston. And so it's kind of funny how they were talking about how, Larry Boa, when he was playing shortstop and Sandberg was second, with the wind and the sun, because they only played day games back then, how Larry Boa would always tell Sandberg, all the pop-ups you got, yours. And so later on, Sean Dunston kind of described how all of a sudden all those pop-ups that Sandberg used to have to get were all Sean's responsibility. But one cool thing that you got to see when it was happening is that all of a sudden the entire Cubs team was up along the fence watching.
That was really cool. Total sign of respect. Really loved seeing that.
Yeah, I have no idea whose idea that was, but that
supposedly Craig Counsell's. So at least Craig's got something right the last week or two.
Yeah, that was a really, really cool move. It meant a lot. And Bob Costas kind of pointed it out. And Bob Costas was really, really funny at the mic telling stories about that Sandberg game. And of course, everyone boos when he mentioned St. Louis. And he kind of had a chuckle out of that one. So when Ryne came up, I mean, obviously there was a lot of emotions. And he talked about how his life changed with the cancer diagnosis and really kind of what all of this meant to have his teammates and his family all there. And there was a lot of tears shed, because it was, we didn't know if he was even going to make it to this ceremony. And to be fighting as strong as he is really kind of says something. So they had all the family come up, the grandchildren, and they had this big red button. And when they hit the big red button, the curtain comes down and there's confetti and smoke machines. And you see Sandberg in that defensive position, getting ready to field the ball. I thought Lou Cella did an absolutely phenomenal job with the statue. I absolutely love it.
Yeah, the statue's really cool. The only kind of funny thing, if there's anything, and again, it's fun. This is not a criticism at all, and I know a lot of people were talking about it. I mean, Sandberg looks absolutely jacked. I mean, absolutely jacked. And again, back in that era of baseball, there really were no jacked guys, if you know what I'm saying. So that was a fun part of it. Crawly, I mean, I think we can talk about it. If not, I guess edit it out of the podcast. But I mean, how in the world did you get that behind the scenes access when that thing was being put together? You didn't even tell me about it.
No, Dustin, if someone asks me to keep a secret, I try to keep my word. And Lou is a good friend of mine, Lou Cella. He's done all the statues at Wrigley Field, along with many, many statues all over the country. And he said, Crawly, you want to come visit my studio? And Dustin, I wasn't going to turn that down. And so I went there and I got to see it. I did, I wasn't allowed to have my camera, my phone there at the time. Lou took a couple pictures for me, but yeah, I got to see that. And it was a secret I had to keep. And I think I did a pretty darn good job of that one. So I knew what was coming. And it was kind of funny because at the Club 400 party that ended up happening on Tuesday, Lou actually talked on the microphone. Someone asked about the muscles and he said, Ryne Sandberg checked off everything. And he said it looked good. And Ryne was a stickler for the details. So he said it stayed in, but his teammates had a good chuckle at that as well.
Yeah. I mean, listen, I'm not, again, please, I'm not saying anything was wrong with it. It's just a funny little part of that is that, Rhino looked absolutely jacked.
So that was the Sunday game when that all happened. And unfortunately, the Cubs did not play well on Sunday Night Baseball as I think they're 0-4 in Sunday Night Baseball.
We've just decided to not talk about the Mets series. We just decided that not worth talking about.
But the very next day on Monday was the 1984 private party Cubs reunion, which was really cool. Stuart McVicker and all our friends at Club 400, Tony Garofalo, who was the trainer, Bob Eibach, who's been on this podcast, he was the PR guy. They put together an unbelievable party of who's who of the Cubs players. Rich Bordy was there. The Gravedigger, right? Rich Bordy was there, Thad Bosley, Warren Brewster. You had Jody Davis, Bobby Dernier, Leon Durham, Richie Hebner, the Gravedigger right there, just classic. He was hilarious. You had Steve Trout, Chuck Rainey, just all these guys have just not been together for a very, very long time. Tim Stoddard, Steve Trout. And so there was a golf outing at Pinecrest Golf Course, and the guys were just absolutely great. They had different foursomes going around. And at my hole, we had a little bit of a party. We had shots for everybody and some music and some selfie stations.
Shocking. You a party and shots. Okay. Breaking news.
Yeah.
Breaking news on the Fly the W podcast.
Yeah, it was fun. And then we ended up taking those guys back to the hotel, and they came back and we just had a great steak dinner. And everybody was just having so much fun talking to each other. Wayne Messmer was there. just all these great people. And then the big party was Tuesday. So I went Tuesday morning and we got a bunch of stuff autographed before then for the raffle because all the money was going to prostate cancer research in honor of Ryne Sandberg. And so I got to kind of be in there while they were signing all the autographs and telling some just really funny stories. These guys, these 80s guys, they didn't make the big money. You know what I mean? Like these guys now. And they're funny. They're blue collar guys. It's not like they think, you know what I mean? They're not, they were just fun to talk to. And so we had the big event on Tuesday and you had there Sharon Panazzo, one of the assistant PR director for the 84 team. Later on, she became the PR director. You had Wayne Messmer was the MC. Marla Collins was there. Marla Collins, Dustin. If you know that one, you know. I mean, Lou Sella, who did the sculpture, was there. Scott Nelson, longtime scout for the Cubs, was there. It was probably one of the coolest parties I've been to. They were all on the stage, and seeing all those guys there just brought back a ton of memories for me. There were so many people responsible for helping with that party, getting that thing moving. It was not easy, Dustin. This was by far the biggest as far as quantity of guests. And there was definitely a lot of moving parts. The Hebners, Richie Hebner was the last guy I dropped off yesterday at O'Hare at noon. And then I went home and slept for about 9 hours. So it was as much fun as you could imagine having in a 4-day stretch. But you know, how great was it to see all those guys and hear their stories and just the love that they had for each other. Some of these guys hadn't seen each other for 20 years. The hugs, the emotions that all kind of came out there. It really was a very special day. And again, thanks to Club 400, Stuart McVicker, Tony Garofalo, Bob Eibach for putting it all together and all the people behind the scenes helping out. Really made it special. And we'll have a good total pretty soon as far as the money that'll be donated to the charity once all the auction and silent auction stuff is all paid up and all done.
Good time. Good job, Crawly. This is the Fly the W670 podcast. It is episode 52 of season number 3. Don't forget, listen, download, review, subscribe to the Fly the W podcast. Leave a 5-star review. You can email us, flythew670gmail.com. And don't forget, you can watch us on the 670 The Score YouTube page. All right, Crawly, I know I've mentioned it a couple times, but the Cubs right now find themselves 11 games back of the Brewers as they are on a flight as we speak. Hopefully they're up in the air, headed to Milwaukee, right?
Yes, sir. This was before today's game. So just to make everyone aware, this was a 48-33. Brewers were in first place. St. Louis
Brewers didn't play today, so they're still 48-33.
Cardinals 41-38. So 6 games back unless they played today. Pirates 39-41, 8.5. Cincinnati 37-43, 10.5 games. So the Cubs would be 38-44. So they'd kind of be tied statistically with Cincinnati as far as that's concerned. So not really that great.
So they're 10.5. So now the Cubs and Reds are both 10.5 games behind Milwaukee because Milwaukee's not going to play today. So they gained that half a game because of that.
Yep. So, you know, just try to go a little bit at a time. Just try to go, you know, you got a 3-game series coming up. See what you can do.
Right. See what you can do, and it's not going to be easy. The Brewers are playing unbelievable ball, and they're playing even better if you believe that at home. But let's talk about some of the news and notes before we preview this huge, in my opinion, huge series, potentially season in the balance type of thing.
Yeah, congrats to Kyle Hendricks on reaching 10 years of service time. That happened on Wednesday. That would be June 26th. According to MLB Players Association, fewer than 10% of players in baseball history have played for a decade or longer. And again, thinking about how Kyle's season started, just a pure professional in every sense of the word. One of the great Cubs of all time, in my opinion. You take a look at this right here, Dustin. Marquis had this graphic. Players who played 10-plus season for the Cubs and no other teams, AL or NL franchises. On that list, Kyle Hendricks, 11 season. Stan Hack had 16. Ernie Banks, 19, Cap Anson in the 1800s, 22. So, you know, when you really talk about modern day players, I mean, really, you know, you think about it, Kyle Hendricks, you know, that's second only to Ernie Banks when you think about guys that are post World War II. Other news that we got going on here, phase 1 of All-Star voting ended at noon on Thursday today, and the results are supposed to be announced on MLB Network. The way that it works, Dustin, is that The leading vote getters in both the American League and the National League will punch their tickets to Arlington, automatic berth. Then the top 2 finishers at each position and the top 6 outfielders move on to the second phase of voting. And that second phase will run from noon on Sunday until noon Eastern time on Wednesday, July 3rd. I'm going to guess that the Cubs do not have anyone moving forward on that. They probably have just finished with the announcements right now, but I'm guessing that.
And they shouldn't. And they shouldn't. Should they? I mean,
nope.
Come on. No.
No way.
The answer is no.
Speaking of no good, we have some roster moves and injury reports. The big news today, Javier Assad was placed on the 15-day IL with a right forearm strain. Counsel said Assad's been experiencing discomfort in his throwing arm for the past couple of weeks. It's been on and off, but he was playing catch yesterday and it really bothered him. So he's on the IL retroactive to June 24th. The Cubs welcome back right-hander reliever Vinny Natoli on Thursday, signing him to a major league contract. Natoli was on the Cubs spring training roster last season and he was with the spring training team last season and played for the Iowa Cubs. He was DFA'd by the A's on Sunday. Mark Leiter, who was put on the 15-day IL with a right forearm strain prior to the game on June 23rd. So the Cubs did that whole series with San Francisco without Leiter on there. There's a group of Cubs who are continuing their rehabs. They're all at different stages. Jordan Wicks, Ben Brown are expected to be back in mid to late July, along with Mike Tauchman. One player whose rehab hit a bump in the road is reliever Yency Almonte. He came in the Michael Busch trade as well. He had some problems. He was transferred to the 60-day IL. That allowed the Cubs to add Vinny Natoli to the 40-man roster. So
we're not going to see Yency Almonte anytime soon, if again.
No, not anytime soon for sure.
All right, Cubs, Brewers. This is an absolute huge one. It is, north of the Cheddar Curtain, Wrigley North, whatever you like to call it. Before we get into it, Crawly, are you're in Wisconsin now? Are you going to be going to any of these games?
We'll see how I'm feeling. Again, that whole week of literally not a lot of sleep and a lot of running around has kind of worn me out. We'll see if I got some energy.
You're in recovery mode still. Okay.
Yeah, the Brewers are 48-33, good for first place in the NL Central. They've won 4 in a row and are coming off a sweep of the Texas Rangers. Milwaukee's 6-4 in their last 10 games and have a 6-game lead over the Cardinals. Dustin, you remember the Cubs played the Brewers 7 times this season. They took 2 of 3 at Wrigley Field in early May when the Cubs were rolling and looking good. At the end of May, they dropped 3 of 4 in Milwaukee. So they're like you said, they're going north of the Cheddar Curtain. And as you mentioned before, they look, the Brewers look just phenomenal. And at home, Dustin, they're 25-12.
Yeah, unbelievable. They have been playing some just unbelievable baseball up there. And I'm starting to think that the bench coach, now skipper, is the actual secret sauce up in Brewtown, and it's not Craig Counsell. Pat Murphy is what I'm talking about specifically.
Yeah, I mean, that remains to be seen. If you look at the tail of tape, though, obviously it's all going to lean towards the Brewers. Batting average, the Brewers were so bad at hitting last year. It was their pitching that really kept them in it. It's really the opposite this year. It's their hitting that's doing everything. The Cubs, the Brewers have the advantage on that. They're hitting 255 as a team. They are 5th best in Major League Baseball, while the Cubs are hitting 230, 25th best in Major League Baseball. Slug, the Brewers are 12th with 400 slugging average, while the Cubs are 24th at 369. Runners in scoring position, the Brewers are 10th with 268, while the Cubs are 28th in baseball. Only the Oakland A's and the Chicago White Sox are worse with runners in scoring position at this point.
It's pretty amazing, pretty pathetic.
Yeah, pathetic is the perfect word for it. Starting pitching goes to the Cubs. They have a 3.62 ERA, which is 8th best in all baseball, while the Brewers are 4.27, 19th in baseball. Reliever ERA, though, get this. The Brewers are 3rd, Dustin, with a 3.16 ERA. That's 3rd in all of baseball, while the Cubs are 24th in baseball with a 4.52 ERA. And then fielding, as far as it goes, the Brewers are 7th best in baseball with 30 defensive runs saved, while the Cubs are 21st with -5 defensive runs saved. That takes us to the pitching probables right now. In game one, we have Jameson Taillon versus Colin Ray. Taillon's 4-3 with a 2.90 ERA and 12 games started with 53 strikeouts and 68 in the third innings pitch. Jamo's been doing well lately, not giving up more than 2 earned runs in any of his last 3 starts. Jamo has pitched twice this season against the Brewers. On May 4th at Wrigley, Jameson threw 6 innings, a shutout ball with 7 Ks, picked up the win. On May 30th in Milwaukee, he gave up 3 runs on 6 hits, got a no decision. Jamo is 4-7 lifetime with a 3.20 ERA and 15 games started against the Brewers, and is 1-2 with a 4.11 ERA at Miller Park. Christian Yelich is 10 for 26 against Jamo. Willie Adames, 3 for 14. Wilson Contreras, 2 for 11. Look out for youngster Sal Frelick. He's 4 for 7 so far against Jamo. Colin Ray is 6-2 with a 3.62 ERA and 14 games started, 54 strikeouts in 82 innings pitched. Ray has not lost a game in his last 7 starts, though his offense did bail him out in his last start against San Diego when he gave up 5 runs in 5 1/3 innings. He did not factor in that decision. So Ray faced the Cubs on May 30th in Milwaukee, went 5.1 innings, gave up only 1 run. Ray has started 3 games against the Cubs. He does not have a decision. 2.93 ERA versus Chicago. A lot of these guys, Cubs, don't have a lot of at-bats against Ray. He features a sinker, cutter, sweeper, and 4-seam fastball. Game 2, Dustin, we're wondering here. You got Justin Steele versus Tobias Myers. Justin Steele, 0-3, so still winless, and we're about to get into the end of June, close to July. 11 games, he's got 3.08 ERA with 65 strikeouts and 64 1/3 innings pitch. He has had terrible run support this season as he continues looking for that first win. He hasn't given up more than 2 earned runs in his last 6 starts, but has got nothing to show for it. In his last start against the Giants, he gave up only 2 runs in 7 2/3 innings pitched. Steele faced the Brewers in Milwaukee on May 27th, pitching 7 shutout innings with 8 Ks, but got a no decision. Justin's 2-2 in 12 games started versus Milwaukee in his career, and 0-1 with the 2.36 ERA in AmFam. Willie Adames, 6 for 25 against Steele. Willie Contreras is 4 for 13, and Christian Yelich, 8 for 24. Tobias Myers is 5-2 with a 3.12 ERA and 10 games started, 45 strikeouts and 52 innings pitched. He made his MLB debut on April 23rd. He started slowly, but he's been heating up. In 4 starts in June, he's 4-0 with a .71 ERA. Cubs faced him on May 4th, and he went 3 innings and gave up 4 runs, 2 of them home runs. That was the only time the Cubs have faced Myers again. Not a lot of at-bats against him. He features a 4-seam fastball, a cutter, and a slider. Takes us to game 3, Kyle Hendricks versus Freddie Peralta. We talked earlier about Kyle Hendricks' turnaround this season after an awful start. Something seemed to click. He's 1-5 with a 6.86 ERA in 14 games, but he only started 9 of those with 43 strikeouts in 57 2/3 innings. He pitched 4 1/3 innings against the Cardinals, coming in for an injured Jordan Wicks, then pitched 5 2/3 innings of 1-1 run ball against the Giants on June 19th, and then 2 runs in 7 innings against his last start against the Giants. He seems to pitch really well against the Giants, so let's see what he does against Milwaukee. He's 10-8 lifetime against the Brewers, 3.54 ERA and 34 games started. He's 4-3 with a 3.86 ERA at AmFam. Christian Yelich is 12 for 53 against Kyle. Willie Adames, 4 for 21, and Willie Contreras, 4 for 11. Freddie Peralta, 5-4 with a 4.03 ERA and 16 games started with 112 strikeouts and 87 innings pitched. He throws a lot of pitches. He gets a lot of strikeouts. He doesn't go deeps in games. He hasn't been as consistent this season. 3 starts ago, he gave up 6 runs against the Reds in 5 1/3 innings, then pitched 6 shutout innings against the Angels on June 19th. In his last start, he gave up 2 runs in 5 innings against Texas. He's 5-2 lifetime against the Cubs with a 3.34 ERA. Ian Happ is 2 for 24 against Peralta. Nico, 4 for 18. Seiya, 2 for 11. And Bellinger, 4 for 9. Freddie throws a 4-seam fastball, a slider, and a changeup.
All right, very good. Great job with the previews there, Crawly. We'll give a prediction in a moment. So let's get into the hot and the not. Hot, you've got Cody Bellinger, Christopher Morel.
Yep, Cody Bellinger, 8 for his last 21 with an RBI, but he's just not really hitting with a lot of power. The slug is really not there this season. Slashing 381, 456, 429. Christopher Morel, 6 for his last 20. He has a double, 2 home runs, and 4 RBIs. So he's slashing 300, 400, 650. As far as the not list, and let's hope this turns him around. In the last 7 games, Thomas Nido is 1 for his last 9. And Ian Happ was 2 for his last 21, but he did have the big home run today. But he was slashing .095, .208, and .143. So he struggled against the Mets and the Giants until the game today.
All right. How about the other side of town?
The Brewers, you got to take a look for Sal Frelick. He's a young guy. He's doing really well. 8 for his last 18, slashing .444, .444, .556. The other guy you want to look for is Jackson Chourio, who is 7 for his last 20 with an inside the park home run and 2 RBIs. He's slashing .350, .350, .550. Some interesting guys on the not list. How about William Contreras on the not list? He is 4 for his last 22, and Willie Adames 4 for his last 24. So let's hope that continues.
Yeah, you got to keep that going if you hope to take a couple of the games in this one for sure. All right, prediction time, Crawly. I'll let you go first. You've been a little better at this than me lately.
I got the Cubs taking 1 out of 3. I like the Justin Steele versus Tobias Myers. Sooner or later, Justin's got to break through. It's not his fault, that they haven't been able to help him out. But I don't know about the other matchups. That they got me very nervous.
Well, I feel the same way. I like the Saturday matchup, maybe a little bit to Sunday, but you cannot get swept, Crawly. You can't get swept. If you get swept, it's going to be a miserable episode number 54 of this fine podcast. That's a wrap. Don't forget to listen, download, review, subscribe to the Fly the W podcast. Follow on all the socials. We're on Facebook. We're on Twitter. We're on Instagram. You can email Crawly and I, flythew670gmail.com, and watch us. That's right, by subscribing to the 670 The Score YouTube channel. Crawly, enjoy the weekend, and we will get back together soon enough and review this one.
Yeah, and Cub fans, hopefully you go to Milwaukee. Hopefully do me a favor, don't pay the extra parking. Get one of those bars with the shuttles. It'll be more fun. Support the Cubs. Go Cubs! Hey guys, it's Crawly. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more content like this. If you want to see more of our videos, be sure to check out our playlist and let us know what you think in the comments below. Also, don't forget to follow us on social media to stay up to date with our latest episodes. Links are in the description. Thanks again for watching, and we'll see you in the next video. Go Cubs!